All right, I'm going to give you an overview of the Cadillac Cue. I'm Mike Hishmi. I'm the engineering manager for Cadillac Cue, and I'm just going to talk about some of the great, cool features that we have here. I'm going to start with the center stack, and just if we take a look at the center stack, everything's off right now, and when it's off, we've got something we call dead fronting. So basically, all of the controls are invisible, and you've got this kind of sculptural quality to the center stack when the vehicle's off. And then, as you'll see in a few seconds, when I turn it on, it's going to come to life. We've got steering wheel controls with a 5-way controller. We can use these steering wheel controls to interact with the instrument cluster. We spent a lot of time in the field with customers, and one of the things they pointed out to us is that they'd really like to see more integration of a lot of the features that they would want to use while they're driving in the steering wheel controls. We also have a fully reconfigurable instrument cluster. This fully reconfigurable instrument cluster is an option on the XTS, but let me show you how all of this stuff kind of comes to life here. Okay, as the system is powering up, you can see the lights come on. There's a welcome animation. There's a home screen that pops up here, and this is what we've done here is to make it really easy to use. We've got really large labeled icons in the home screen. The actual center stack is capacitive touch, so it's going to sense my finger touch. It's not really a pressure. It's a touch sensitive, so I can do the gestures and things that I would do on an iPhone or an iPad. We've got a volume slider here that I can actually just slide my finger across to raise and lower the volume. There's a home button at any point if I'm in the system and I need to get back to this large icon view. I can press the home button. So we've taken a lot of effort to make this very easy to use and actually still very elegant. Now again, there's a few ways to interact with the system. You can use the steering wheel controls, and when you use the steering wheel controls, everything that you do actually happens in front of you, so the instrument cluster is going to reflect what's happening. You can control your phone, your media player, your nav through the steering wheel controls, but you can also use voice recognition to control the phone or media or nav system. And what we've done with voice recognition is we've made it natural language, so you don't really have to remember commands. You can speak more freely to the vehicle, and it's going to respond appropriately. All right, and from here on out, we're going to go through the individual features of this system. I'm going to describe to you the faceplate and its operation, along with the steering wheel controls and the instrument cluster. All right, I'm going to talk to you about the home screen. Now, the home screen's got quite a few features. When you get to the home screen really just by pressing the home button on the faceplate at any time, no matter where you are in the system. And what you'll see are 8 large icons, and there are multiple pages that you can get to. So you can have 8 icons on up to several pages, depending on how many features you have in the system. A few things you can do with the home screen. You can move icons around by going into the edit mode, which I'm going to show you here. You simply hold down on one of the icons. It'll go into this edit state, and you can move the icon around to where you'd like to have it. So if you use a feature quite frequently, you can move it closer to you. Also, on the top of the home screen, you'll find a shortcut bar. If you find yourself using things frequently, you can move them up to the shortcut bar. For example, if you use Pandora, you can move Pandora up to the top. When you're done editing, you press the home button, it goes back to the normal state. And now on any application in the system, you'll find Pandora at the top of the screen. This way you don't have to go back to the home page. You can just press on the top of the screen from any of these applications. All right, I'm going to talk to you about the lower panel here, and on the lower panel what we did is we really minimized the number of buttons. We did a lot of research with customers and try to focus on the things that they use most frequently. And a little bit different than our competitors, you'll find key features on the lower panel. You don't have to go into the touchscreen to turn on your heated seats or your cooled seats. All of the things that you need to get to quickly are on the lower panel. And it's pretty straightforward to use. You just basically touch any of the chrome bars, and when you do that, you also get a little pop-up in the screen. So some of the features, like the more advanced features, are found in the screen. And as you're interacting with the climate control panel, you'll see these appear on the touch screen, and you can simply use the touch screen if you want. Now there are a few radio controls here as well. You've got your volume, you've got your home button, and power. So we've really simplified the radio controls to just some key frequently used features. Okay, and we have a climate app, and in the climate app we have some of the more advanced features that you may not find on the faceplate. Here you can sync your temperatures and simply synchronize the driver and passenger temperature, and you'll also find the various mode men available to you. All right, I'm going to talk to you about the capacitive faceplate. Now, the really neat thing about this capacitive faceplate is it's fully touch sensitive, very much like an iPhone or an iPad. And unlike a lot of the mobile devices that you might use, it has haptic feedback. So when I interact with the screen or I interact with a lower panel, I actually feel a pulse through my fingers. And basically what's happening is, as I touch, you can't really see it, but you can feel it. The lower panel or the upper panel will move ever so slightly and very quickly. I can't perceive it, but what happens is you feel a pulse in your finger. And the great thing about this is when I'm driving, I don't have to look at the screen to know that I've done something. I can feel it in my finger, very much like pressing a button, a typical button on a panel today. So we're one of the first to do this, or the first to do this actually, and this is going to be a great feature for as you're driving to interact with the system. All right, I'm going to go back to the home screen now, and I'm going to talk to you about Reveal on Approach. So basically what Reveal on Approach does is there's a sensor in the system, and it detects my hand. And if I'm just driving and not really interacting with the system, it's going to go into a quiet state. What's going to happen is it's going to hide the buttons on the screen and give me a, like for example in map view, it's going to give me a full map view. And then as my hand approaches the screen, it's going to reveal those buttons to me so I can use them. So as my hand approaches, I can now interact with the screen. And then if I leave my hand on the shifter or on the steering wheel, it's going to go back into this quiet state and hide those buttons from view. All right, a little bit about the home screen. You can get to the home screen at any time by pressing the home button on the faceplate. What you get here is these large icons, and let's say I want to launch the audio app. I simply press the audio icon, and the audio app is going to come up. Now, if I want to switch to navigation or climate or any of the other apps that are found on the home screen, I press the home button again. And for example, I want to go to nav, I just press the nav button and it launches the nav app. If I find myself frequently doing that, like switching between audio and nav or audio and phone, instead of going back to the home screen, I can use the shortcuts found on the top of the screens here, and you can see I can simply choose an icon from the top and switch between audio and phone or nav without having to go back to the home screen. All right, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about some of the buttons that can be found on the screen. I'm going to move into the audio application. At the bottom of the application, there's a taskbar, and you'll find the most frequently used buttons of this application here. Let me just walk through these. So basically you have a voice button. Pressing that initiates a voice rec session, and you can say, I'd like to listen to something. You can use it to change the radio station. There's also a radio button, and pressing the radio button basically toggles you through the different radio sources. There's seek controls, so you can seek left and right. And if you find yourself in an area that has weak stations, weak signals, you can toggle the seek to tune. And then basically tune is just like an old-fashioned tune dial. It'll slowly move you through all of the different frequencies in that given band. Let's just move this back to seek. There's also a media button, and pressing this media button will switch you between all the different sources that may be connected to the vehicle, whether it be a USB source or an SD card, basically anything that's connected to the system. And then there's the menu button, which will bring you some additional features like tone, shuffle. You can manage Bluetooth devices, and you can simply exit this menu by pressing the exit button. Now this taskbar control is found on most applications at the bottom. So once you get used to using it in one application, it'll be pretty straightforward for you to learn the other applications like nav or phone. All right, I'm going to talk to you about tone settings. Now, tone settings I can get to through the audio application. So I'm going to press audio on the home screen. I'm going to go into the audio app. You can see here I'm listening to the radio and I want to change my tone settings. So I just press the menu button. Then I press tone settings. Now I can adjust my bass, treble, and if my vehicle is equipped with a surround sound amplifier, I'll see some settings at the bottom here that I can adjust as well. So it's pretty straightforward to make adjustments. You just tap on the plus or the minus, or you can hold down and it'll move. And the nice thing is as I'm doing this, I'm feeling a pulse through my finger, so I've got haptic feedback on the screen. Now we did find people actually try to drag the icon. You can't drag the icon, you have to use the buttons here to the left and right of the setting. I can change my balance simply by pressing the arrows. And again, I can change the level of surround, or I can change from driver-oriented surround to rear just by pressing the controls at the bottom. And again, depending on what amplifier the vehicle is equipped with, you'll see some different settings here at the bottom of the screen. Alright, let me talk to you about browsing your media and using list views. So what I'm going to do is from the home screen, I'm going to go into the audio view. And now we're on an FM radio station, and I can get a list of all the local stations by simply pressing the browse button on the screen. And when I do, I'm presented with a list view. And the great thing about these list views is there's a few ways to interact with them depending on what type of user I am. So if I want to quickly jump from the top to the bottom of a list, I can use this vertical keyboard. And I can simply tap anywhere on the vertical keyboard, or I can drag my finger and it moves from the top of the list to the bottom of the list. If I'm used to using an iPod or an iPhone, I can actually fling the list, very much like those devices. Or if I simply want to tap on arrows, I can tap the arrows here and it moves up and down. And then finally I can actually drag the cursor, and when I drag the cursor, I'm shown a large number on the screen so I can quickly get to the number that I want to see. When I'm done doing this, it's easy to exit out of this view by just pressing the exit button on the top of the screen, and it moves right back to the main view. Now, the other thing about this is that all list views pretty much work the same way. So if I were to change my sources to my media library, and I press the browse button, I'm presented with a very similar list, and now instead of looking at radio stations, I'm actually looking at songs on my device. And so on the vertical keyboard, we're presented with an A to Z list that I can use to quickly get to the top or the middle or the bottom of a view. I can actually scroll up and down using the scroll bar, and very much like I was doing on the radio, I'm now doing with songs on my iPod. And again, to exit out, I just press the exit button. All right, let me talk to you a little bit about favorites. And the nice thing about favorites is they're a quick way to get to things without having to take your eyes off the road. So I'm going to go into the audio app here and just show you a few of the different favorites we have set in the system. In this example, we've got a phone number stored as a favorite. We've got a contact, some AM radio stations. I can have up to 60 favorites saved in the system. I can easily get to more of them by dragging here. I can get to different pages. This example, we've got an address stored, we've got a phone number. If, for example, I'm listening to this radio station and I want to save it as a favorite, it's pretty straightforward. I just hold down on the empty favorite and it shows up in there. So it works pretty much like our vehicles do today. If I happen to be in a route on the nav system, I can do the same thing, hold down the empty favorite, and it'll store that address into that empty favorite. The other thing is if I'm listening to a media player, if I happen to be listening to my iPod or a USB stick, I can just hold down on an empty favorite and it's going to give me a choice of things to store in there. So I can store an artist, an album, a song, a genre. So it's pretty great way of getting to things quickly. You don't have to go into the music list to look for the song that you listen to frequently. You can use a favorite as a quick way to get to it. The other nice thing about favorites is you can hide it. You know, if you don't find yourself using it too often, you can kind of hide it. You have more room for, say, a map or even a less cluttered display. You can reveal more. So if you frequently use it, you can have 1 row or 3 rows of favorites. So here I've got all 3 rows of favorites revealed. All right, I'm going to show you another great feature of favorites here. If I find myself using favorites frequently, I can actually edit or rename them. And I'm going to show you this by going into the settings menu from the home screen. I'm going to go to radio and then manage favorites. And for example, here I've got a phone number stored as a favorite, so I'm going to click on it. I'll hit the rename, and now we'll just call this office. So we'll delete, rename this office. And now the favorite's been renamed, we're all set. And if I go into, say, like the audio view, I'm going to see office here on the far left. All right, let me show you a really cool feature of this system. What we've done is we've moved the radios that would typically be behind the display elsewhere in the vehicle. So we've got this great 1.8 liter hidden storage bin that you can get to by simply holding your hand on the lower part of the faceplate. So this is motorized. If I just rest my hand on the faceplate, it's going to move up. I've got a lit, flocked 1.8 liter bin with a USB port, so I can store a wallet or glasses or whatever I might bring to the vehicle, and I can also plug a phone or an iPod to charge and also interact with the system while the faceplate is closed. All right, I'm going to demo voice recognition for you, and the nice thing about the system is it has natural voice recognition. I really don't have to memorize a specific command to get it to do something. To use voice recognition, it's pretty simple. I just press the voice rec key on the steering wheel, so I'm going to do that now, and I'm going to request a radio station.
Say a command or say help.
I'd like to listen to 101.1 FM.
Tuning to 101.1 FM.
There you go. Now if I want to listen to a specific song or an artist, it's pretty straightforward. I do the same thing again. I'm going to hit the steering wheel control.
Say a command or say help.
Play artist Norah Jones.
Play Norah Jones.
Another way to interact with the system is through the 5-way controller on the steering wheel. And this 5-way controller actually will allow you to do many or almost all of the things that you would want to do while driving without using the touchscreen. And basically this controller is linked to the cluster, the instrument cluster in front of you. And so I'm going to demonstrate how this works, but first let me talk a bit about the control. The control is an up, down, left, right, enter. It's pretty straightforward to use. And around the control there's volume buttons, so you can turn the radio up and down, and there are favorite buttons. And if you happen to be listening to an iPod or any media device, those favorite buttons act as next track, previous track. Now with the 5-way controller, I can browse music, browse phone contacts through the instrument cluster. Here's an example of me using the 5-way controller to change sources. I've quickly changed to XM without having to use the touchscreen. I can also browse any of the devices I have connected to the vehicle. For example, my iPhone. And here are the tracks. And if I find that I'm trying to scroll through a long list, it'll go into this letter mode, so I can quickly jump around to the various letters of music in the system. I can also go into the phone menu, browse my recent calls, my phone contacts, and make a phone call if I wish, all through the steering wheel control. If I had a navigation route active, I would see it here in the nav view. And I can use this also to control some of the various settings in the cluster. For example, in this view here, and this cluster is an optional cluster, so it's not available on all vehicles, but the content is pretty much the same regardless of what cluster you get. I can browse my driver information center and view various things related to the vehicle. In the center display, I can put a map or a digital speed. Now this vehicle is equipped with the up-level cluster, and I'm going to show you some of the cool features here. I can actually go into the menu and change the display layouts using the 5-way controller. And what we did here is we're giving customers 4 different layouts. Depending on what type of customer they are, they might choose either a performance layout, the balanced layout, which we're showing right now, a simple layout, and an enhanced layout for the over-the-top tech user. You can get to the layouts pretty quickly just by going into the settings menu. So I'm using the 5-way controller to do that here. I'm going to choose settings. I can see this menu option called display layout. And I'm going to switch from what we call the balanced layout, which is kind of the traditional automotive look, to the simple view. And with the simple view, I basically get a center driver information window, like a DIC as we would have today, and then 2 pieces of information to the left and right of a centrally shown speed. We've got a performance layout. Cool thing about the performance layout here is that we've got a 3D car. The cluster has 3D graphics, and as I move up to the information window and I choose the car and I select different pieces of information related to the car kind of spins around. Now let me take you to the enhanced view here. The enhanced view is for the techie, the overtop. The idea here is it's not automotive inspired. It's pretty futuristic looking, and you've got 3 zones of information that you can configure. So you've got a driver information window on the left, you've got one on the right, And then in the middle, you can actually use it to control your radio or your phone or navigation. All right, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the navigation application. We'll get to the nav app just by pressing the nav icon on the home screen here. And what I'm presented with right now is a 3D map view. And I can change the view that I'm looking at, the type of map view, just by pressing the nav icon on the top of the screen. It's going to switch from an overhead view, from a 3D view to an overhead view, and then we're going to switch to a north-up view, and then finally back to our 3D view. The buttons at the bottom of the screen allow me to zoom in and zoom out. There's a destination button that I use to enter either an address, a point of interest, or an intersection. There's some additional features in the menu, like changing the map from day mode to night mode and things like that. And then I also have some controls for the radio, so that if I'm on the map view, I can still advance a track or pause. Let's just show you how we do a destination entry here. I press the destination button, and I'm presented with like a single line. It kind of looks like a Google destination entry. So I can type pretty much anything in this spot here. I'm going to type an address. I don't have to type the complete address. I can type a partial address. So we'll just do an address here kind of in this area. We'll hit go. Now what it's going to do is, because I didn't type a complete address, it's going to look for the street that's closest to me, in the city that's closest to me, and it found it. And it's going to, and if it found a few options, it would have put that on the screen. But in this case, it only found one. And then it's going to present me with this view here where I can either go or save. If I hit go, it's going to create a route to that destination.
The route calculation is complete. Please proceed to the nearest road.
And now I can drive and have the system tell me what I need to do to make turns and things like that. All right, there are a few ways to zoom in and zoom out on the map. You can use the buttons. There's plus and minus buttons to zoom in and zoom out. You can also use gestures, just like you would on an iPhone or an iPad. You can spread your fingers, and it'll zoom in. You can pinch, and the system's going to zoom out. Okay, now I'm going to just show you some of the options available in the nav menu, and I can get to it by pressing the menu button. If I have a route active, then pressing the top item that says end route will actually cancel that route. And at any time, if I want to resume routing to that destination, I can just press the button again, and it's going to turn that route back on. All right, I just showed you how to enter an address in the system. There's another way that you can put a destination in there. You can actually search for a point of interest. Same thing from the destination menu. I press the destination button to get in there, and I'm going to see a few buttons on the bottom. Those recent destinations, contact, so I can pull an address from my address book, or points of interest, or POIs. I press the POI button, and I can type a category, or I can search for a specific point of interest, for example, like Starbucks. So let's just do a search all for Starbucks. And now what it's going to do is it's going to search for Starbucks close to this location. I can choose the one that I want and have it route me to that location. Also in the nav menu, there are a few things you can do, like end a route, display points of interest nearby, change the map view from day or night mode. All right, I'm going to show you how easy it is to pair a phone. Now, one thing to note is that you have to do this while you're parked. It will not allow you to do this while you're driving. So to do this, we just go to the home screen and press the phone icon. And there's a pair button. It says pair device. We're going to press the pair device button, and it's going to tell me to start a search on my phone, which I'm about to do now. So I've started a search. I'm going to look for Cadillac Cue, press Q. Answer the question that it gives me on the phone, answer the question on the display, and now I'm paired. Is that quick? Now, as it's pairing, it's pulling in all of the contacts from my device. I'm going to set my phone in the bin now. I don't need to use the phone anymore. On the bottom of the screen here, I'm going to reveal the button bar. I'm going to go to contacts. There's a few things I can do. I can pull in my contacts, I can see my recent calls. I can use a keypad if I have voicemail or some other thing that I need to use the keypad for. At any point here, I can scroll through my contacts and make a call. And that's how easy it is to pair a phone. One other thing, there's a phones button here in the far right, and if I press that, it's going to show me all of the paired devices, and I can have up to 10 paired phones. The one with the check mark next to it is the connected phone. So that's the phone when I press contacts that I'm going to see the address book from, or if I get a call while I'm in the vehicle, that's the phone that's going to appear on the screen. It actually will pick up the first phone that you bring into the car if it's paired with it. So if you happen to have two phones with you, the first one that it sees is the phone that's going to be connected. And if you want to change that at any time, it's very simple. You just press the phone button and press on the phone that you want to be the active phone in the system.